Hello everyone and welcome back to the Elegant Edit, or if you're new here, welcome. On this channel I usually share lots of vlogs, but I also talk a lot about fashion, beauty, fitness, wellness in general, and travel. So if you're interested in any of that, you may want to stick around. Especially in today's video, I'm going to be talking all about wellness. Specifically, I'm going to be sharing lots of tips on how to slow down and simplify your life. Now this is a video I've been kind of wanting to film for a while, but haven't gotten around to it until now because I really wanted to take my time gathering these tips and pieces of advice, because these are things that I am still learning about today. I am not a doctor, I'm not some sort of wellness coach, I am also an imperfect person. So I just want to preface this video by saying that I don't know everything about this topic. These are some things I've learned in recent months that I've been applying to my life that have helped me slow down so much and have helped me remain more present in my life and overall healthier. And so wellness is a huge part of my life, and it has been for many years, but especially recently it's kind of become something even bigger in my life, and it's something I want to share more of here on this channel and on my Instagram as well. If you watch my videos, you know that I'm a bit of a yapper, so I'm gonna try and keep this as brief as possible. I have many tips. I literally, if you could see how I plan out these sit-down YouTube videos, you would think this is a novel. So I'm gonna try and keep it short, and I'm also going to possibly link a few things below if I can, just so that you have access to learning about some of this information as well. And I'm not going to be sharing tips in any particular order. Some of the more detailed ones are at the beginning, and some of the simpler ones are sort of toward the end, but really I just kind of threw them all together, and I think they're all very important to living a healthy and balanced life. So I hope you stick around for all of it. I will leave timestamps below though if you're interested in a certain part of this video more than others. So in the world today, now more than ever before, I feel like we are all constantly in a hurry. We're all rushing, and you see it all the time. I see this on the road. I see, especially in the US, I'm currently in the UK where I now live, but in the US where I'm from, lots of road rage, people who are always in a hurry, selfish, trying to get to where they need to go, not thinking about other people, the safety of themselves and other people. You see it in the grocery store. People who jump in front of you to grab something without saying excuse me or waiting their turn. Simple things like that that actually lead to bigger things, and it just shows that there is an issue going on right now in the world, probably in many places, where people lack patience, people don't know how to slow down, and people's cortisol is on the rise. People don't know how to take care of themselves and how to slow down. We were not meant to live such busy lives. Now, I know that times have changed since humans were put on this earth, but I just feel like we were not meant to live life in this way. It is more complicated and more stressful than it needs to be. I do recognize that there are some parts of life now, like work, for example. A big one is work, and a lot of that we can't necessarily change, but outside of our work life, there's a lot that we can do to live healthier lives. If you see me looking down, I'm looking at my laptop because that is where I wrote my novel for this YouTube video. And the first tip that I want to share is to literally slow down. That might sound so simple and like, duh, why didn't I think of that? Literally slow down. Move with grace. That's what I've been trying to do. And when you are constantly rushing around, hurrying, doing one thing to the next, never letting your body relax and take a breather, your cortisol, which is your stress hormone, can rise, and this can lead to many things. It can lead to weight gain, muscle weakness, high blood sugar, high blood pressure, and many more things. And we need to keep that regulated in order to live a healthy life. And the best thing you can do is to literally slow down your movement. And there are many things that I believe can help with that. A lot of those are exercises, but also just taking moments throughout your day where you literally pause. And some of those things that I wrote down that you could do are yoga, Pilates, meditation, and practicing mindfulness. Those are fantastic ways to lower your cortisol and take a breather. When it comes to exercise, as I mentioned, yoga and Pilates are really great ways of slowing down, and I really believe that through yoga, I first started doing yoga back in 2020. If you've been watching me, you know I talk about it all the time. Yoga really taught me to slow down. When I first started working out at 16 years old, I did a lot of strength training and cardio, and a lot of it was faster paced. Whereas nowadays I am definitely more focused on slower paced movements, and yoga was a really great introduction to that for me, because a lot of people tend to think that in order to lose weight, in order to get your dream body, in order to be healthy, you need to move fast when you're working out. So like maybe if you think of running is a great fast-paced exercise. Now, I'm not saying that you can't ever do fast-paced exercises. Of course you can. But because this video is about slowing down, I am highlighting exercises where you are being more intentional with your movements and you're taking it slow. Something else to keep in mind is that when you do slow your workouts down, you tend to feel it more, especially if you are using lighter weights or even no weights at all, you're using just body weight. You tend to feel it a lot more when you slow down, whereas if you're moving really fast, lifting weights, you're trying to get through it faster, you don't feel the benefits as much. It's not as good for you. So yes, yoga, Pilates is another one. Now there are classes that are faster paced, like I said, it depends what you're looking for, but there are so many free videos on YouTube, so many yoga and Pilates instructors out there that are amazing. I personally love Boho Beautiful and Move with Nicole. Those are two instructors that I always go to their videos. I love them so much and they are incredibly helpful, so I recommend them. I will leave them linked below. Another thing that I want to mention are finding graceful hobbies. So I think everyone needs hobbies. I don't know if you know people like this, but I do, and I know people who don't have any hobbies. They don't really have anything that they like to do. They stay so busy in their lives that they like to say maybe they don't have time for a hobby, or maybe they don't have the money or resources, but I don't think that's always true. So some graceful hobbies that I have besides yoga and Pilates are things like gardening, things like doing puzzles, word searches, playing an instrument. Things like that are very graceful and elegant, and they're beautiful hobbies to have. And again, for some of those, you don't even need money or a lot of money to do them. So there are ways of finding hobbies. Reading is another. I love reading. Anything like that where it slows you down and you're really focused on something, that's really great. And all of those things are good for your mental health as well, and keeping your mind sharp as time goes on and as we get older. Those things are very important. Also, if you've never heard of somatic exercises, I am not a professional, but I do want to say these have been so incredibly helpful to me, and I'm sure they are to many people and could be to you as well. Somatic exercises are especially good for people who may have experienced trauma or severe anxiety in their life. They have a lot of tension in their body, emotions that they hold on to. If you are like me and maybe you've been living in fight or flight for many, many years or your whole life, somatic exercises are a godsend. They are incredible and they're super easy to do. Anyone can do them. And basically, again, if you have high cortisol, like I said, trauma, pain, unspoken emotions, all of this is stored in your body. This is something I only learned in recent months, you guys. All of that gets stored in your body in different places. If you have jaw pain, if you have pelvic pain, if you have shoulder pain, back pain, hip pain, all of that, that could be stored trauma and stored emotions, and you need to let that out. And somatic exercises can help you do that. So it helps you to release all of that. And I've noticed that that's true, and it is incredible, you guys. I feel so much more calm in my body these days. It's just so much more relaxed and less tense. And so I could not recommend those more. I highly recommend you do your research on those. My next tip, and I'm not going to hold your hand when I say this because some people need to hear this. You have to wake up earlier in the mornings. Now, do not turn off this video yet. Just hear me out. I know this is hard. I used to not really be, I always was a morning person once I got out of bed, but it was the getting out of bed part that was the hardest. And I understand that, trust me. But some people out there are constantly and consistently late. Sometimes, of course, things can be out of your control. Maybe there is traffic or you had some sort of accident. There are things that happen, and yeah, those are out of our control. But if you are constantly and every day late to something, I just think it's very disrespectful. So these things do not happen every day, so you can do this. You need to wake up earlier. Whether you're someone who rushes or not, I feel like if you find that you're always rushing around, you need to slowly start getting into the habit of getting up earlier. Now, this does not have to be a dramatic change. If you always wake up at 11 a.m. and your goal is now to wake up at 7, that's a huge jump. And realistically, you're not always going to be able to do that, at least not in one day. That takes time and effort, and it takes time to form a habit. So you can't get upset with yourself if the next day you wake up at 10 instead of 7. That is good progress. And I'm telling you, just waking up and going to bed earlier, those are both, they go hand in hand and both are important, but just going to bed or waking up half an hour earlier can make such a huge difference. I know for me, when I started working on my schedule, when I would wake up or go to bed just half an hour earlier, I would end up feeling more awake in the mornings. I'd be waking up earlier and I felt more energetic and a bit more ready to take on the day. Maybe just start with 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever you can do. Again, a morning and night routine are important. I think, again, even if you're not a person who's rushing around all the time, having a beautiful, slow-paced morning and evening routine really puts you in the best mood. You can romanticize it, you can slow down, you can just make it a beautiful experience, getting ready for the day and going to bed in the evenings. It is not fun to have to rush to get ready in the mornings. I do not like rushing, trust me. I like to make sure I have enough time to get ready, and I love my evening routine, guys. I love having a shower, I love getting in my pajamas, doing my skincare, and reading in bed before I go to sleep. So definitely kind of create a morning and evening routine that works for you and your lifestyle. It doesn't have to look like influencers on the internet. It has to be what works for you. As long as you can slow down and make it enjoyable, you're on track. This next tip might go against something that maybe your employer tells you. Stop multitasking if you can, okay? Because here's the thing about multitasking. I'm pretty sure it's been proven that human beings cannot truly multitask. And that kind of makes sense because here's the thing, not just in a professional setting, maybe you're working on some sort of passion project or some sort of personal thing. You have a personal goal to work on something. If you are rushing through it and not fully giving your attention to one thing at a time, if your mind is all over the place focusing on 2 or more things at once, you're not fully giving your attention to that one project that deserves your time and attention, and the outcome is not going to be what you hoped for. It is not going to be your best work. And wouldn't you rather be putting out your ultimate best work out there, whether it is professionally or personally? I think maybe what tends to happen is people put their all into their professional life and have nothing left in their personal life, and we cannot do that. We need balance. So multitasking, maybe it's a bold take, but I don't think we are able to really truly do that well. Speaking of multitasking, I feel like it's also very distracting, and I think that people around us can sense that. When you are distracted, when you are not fully present and you're with other people, whether it's one person or a group of people, family, friends, even strangers, people notice this about you. When you are not fully present, that is quite obvious to other people. And again, it can come off as a bit disrespectful, even if you don't mean for it to. So this is why it's important to focus on the one thing in front of you and to stay present. We're all human. We all live complex lives. There are some things, again, that are out of our control that happen that might be distracting us or might be causing us some pain and sadness in our lives. And so I feel like it's okay to say no sometimes. Again, sometimes in a professional setting, also in your personal life. And it's okay to be honest and just say you have a lot going on right now and that there's a lot on your plate. Hopefully, if you're around the right people, they would understand. Another part of this is surrounding yourself with good people. I feel like cutting out people that don't bring you joy is very important. It's easier said than done, but there are people in our lives who can drain us, who can bring out our fight or flight, who we can never fully relax around. And those are not people that you want to be around. So if you can distance yourself from those people, or if you have to cut them out entirely, do what you have to do to get away from those people. You know who they are. And it doesn't matter how long you've known them. It doesn't matter if you've been friends with them for years or you just met them recently. It's okay to distance yourself from those people if it means your mental well-being and physical well-being is better off. The last part of this tip is to be realistic with your daily goals and your to-do list. I feel like we try to, at least when I write my to-do list, I end up writing every little thing. It could be big things, it could be small things, and then you look at your list and you're like, this is really overwhelming. This is a lot to do. Even if it's all smaller tasks, when it's listed out in front of you like that, it can look like it's a lot. So you have to be realistic about your daily goals. So write down your goals for the day in no particular order. Just get them all down on paper. And then reorder them or put a star next to what's most important. So maybe if there's a deadline for a couple of those, again, it doesn't always have to be professionally, but maybe personally you're like, okay, I really need to make this doctor's appointment, or I really need to finish writing whatever it may be, writing a blog post, I don't know. Or it is a work project, whatever it is, highlight those that are most important, that have a tighter deadline, and then that way you know to focus on those things first. And then maybe don't include the things you want to do. Maybe start off with the things you have to do. I know that's not always fun, but you could always make a separate list for the things you want to do, like reading or playing an instrument or doing whatever, seeing a friend, but try to have a separate list for the things you have to get done and try to get those things done first if you can. Again, it's a bit less overwhelming if you focus on what needs to be done first rather than every single task you have to do in one day and the things you want to do. Again, all of that combined can feel really overwhelming. Take it one step at a time. My next tip is to declutter and reorganize. Now, not everyone enjoys doing this. I am a very sentimental person. I feel like I hold on to a lot of things that I don't necessarily have to hold on to. So this can be tricky. Some people are not like that at all. Some people are not hoarders. They want to get rid of everything they can, and that's amazing. I'm somewhere in the middle, maybe. I do tend to get rid of things quite often, but other times I hold on to too much for too long. So this tip goes along with the previous tip, I think. To live simply is to live beneath your means. So what I mean by this is, even if you have the money to continuously buy things, doesn't mean you have to or you should. I think as time has gone on, we all know this. Deep down, I think that material items don't bring us happiness. I think we all know this by now. And so being able to declutter and reorganize just helps you to reassure yourself that none of this stuff truly matters. The material things we have, they're amazing, and it's, you know, we should be grateful for those things, but they won't make us happy, and they aren't going to help us live usually our best lives. Most of the most beautiful things in life are free, but of course, we're living in a time where there's a lot of material items around us, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but we just have to know what to kind of hold as an important thing in our lives versus what to let go of. So living beneath your means could kind of look like something along the lines of, let's say you and your partner live alone, it's just two of you. Do you really need 10 different mugs? Probably not, maybe 4 at most, right? Same thing goes for anything really. I mean, do you really need 50 makeup brushes? Do you really need 50 pairs of shoes? Think about it like that. If you can, I think it's important to have the basics covered, right? So let's say in terms of fashion, I'd say shoes wise, we all need, like, let's focus on spring, summer. White pair of sneakers, a pair of sandals in a neutral color, a pair of heels in a neutral color, and technically that's all you need. Now, this is really hard for me as a fashion and beauty lover. I do have a lot of clothing, makeup products, shoes, accessories. I love that stuff. So for me, I do tend to have a few options when it comes to those things. I like to have a few pairs of shoes in different colors, a few clothing items in different colors and styles, and so for me it's a bit tricky. But if you're not as into those things, this tip will be especially for you, to really kind of live minimally. That's amazing. That is such a goal of mine, but again, it's really tough. But if you can't do that with your clothing or your shoes, try to focus on other areas of your life where you can kind of keep things minimal. Again, you don't need 50 mugs, do we? I know they're all really cute, but try to think of it that way. Think about, okay, you can wash your mug after every single use, and so you really don't need more than technically 1 per person. So that is just something to keep in mind. Now, social media does not help with this whatsoever, because we're constantly being sold things by influencers, by companies and brands, it could be really, really tricky. So try to minimize the noise. Try to get rid of all that noise around you. If you have to unfollow people, which I'm going to get into social media in a minute, if you have to unfollow people or unsubscribe to emails, do what you have to do, because people are constantly trying to sell you the next best thing. And it's like, if an influencer, you know, sold you on a makeup product and you were like, okay, I need to buy it, and you bought it. And then another influencer says, you need this makeup product, and another influencer. It is just a constant cycle. And you really don't need all of that, you know? So I think it's important to really focus on, okay, maybe having, like I said, a few different options for one thing, but then keeping it at that. You don't need to overconsume. Overconsumption is destroying our lives. I truly believe that. And also, to go along with that, having a cluttered home causes more stress. So take your time going through each room. Start with your bedroom, the living room, the kitchen, and so on. And put things into piles. You know, let's say books, if you want. I'm a big reader. If you read a book that you got and you didn't love it, you can give it away. Give it to a friend, or give it to a thrift store or a charity shop. You don't need to hold on to it. If you don't think you'll read it again, it wasn't your favorite, there's no need to keep it. A clear space equals a clear mind. Keep that in mind. This is very true. Having a cluttered, messy space around you can actually stress you out. I think this has been proven. So if you have a clear space around you, put things away after you use them, all of that, your mind will feel more at peace. My next tip is similar to what I was talking about. So this is more about having a social media cleanse. This is something I have just done, and I have to say it felt so good. If you are on social media and maybe you follow a lot of accounts, maybe you have a ton of followers, you have a ton of pictures on your social media, think about doing a bit of a cleanse. So maybe not only taking a break from social media for a day or two, or doing that every week, but what I guess I'm referring to more is removing followers, which I know is, like, for some people maybe a huge thing that they don't want to do. Maybe you are trying to grow your Instagram account, and totally understand that. For me, I have a personal account and I have a public account. My public account is The Elegant Edit, so it kind of ties in with my YouTube channel. So that's the one I promote. That's where my fashion and beauty content, wellness and fitness content all goes on there, and YouTube. And that one I don't mind if people follow me on, because I don't share anything very personal there. However, I have actually decided to make my main account private. My main account has been public probably for the most of the time I've had my Instagram, which is many years now. I recently decided to make it private because I realized that I don't need people watching me. I'll talk about this in a different video, but I don't need the validation from people. I don't need people watching my private life without interacting or supporting. So I made that private. But you can delete pictures, you can remove followers, which so thankful for that Instagram feature. That was so helpful for me. I had over 1,000 followers on my main account. I now have around 160. So I removed most of them, because most of those people I didn't know. Some of them were spam accounts. Some of them were people from like high school who I never talk to anymore and who don't support me anyway. So I'm like, why do we have each other on here? So I removed a ton of followers. I also unfollowed a ton of accounts on Instagram as well. So go through your social media and do a cleanse, because again, in some ways it's almost like your home, right? We spend so much time on social media. So not just Instagram, but maybe if you're on Facebook or whatever else it is, TikTok, anything else that you're on, try to go through and remove people and unfollow accounts that don't serve you, because again, clear home or social media can help clear your mind as well and put you in a better headspace, especially if you are following people who you don't relate to, or maybe who trigger you in some way. It's just best to unfollow, whatever the case may be. Or you just, again, don't interact with their stuff and they don't interact with yours. What is the point? Clear out your social media. You will thank me later. My next tip, and I'm going into some that are a bit more brief now, be mindful of what you identify with and kind of where you store your identity. My husband got me a book, Her True Worth, and in one of the first couple chapters, the authors talked about social media a lot and how so many people put their identity in that and put their identity in kind of the way others see them. And I think in the world today, people, myself included, have become way too attached to material items in particular. And I think so many people kind of identify with these things. So maybe there are influencers who identify so much with luxury items. If you watch Lydia Millen, she recently did an amazing video that I highly recommend you watch, where she talked about redefining luxury. So her channel was kind of built on promoting luxury brands. And she recently got rid of a ton of her designer bags, and she's trying to live more simply, which I think is amazing. But she definitely has admitted to kind of making her identity all about those Hermes bags, right? And I feel like when we identify with those things, material things can be taken from us, they can be stolen or lost, and if those things are gone, what are you going to identify with then? Mimi Icon, I think is her name. I've been following her for so long on Instagram, and I adore her. I feel like she's very inspirational. I think she's writing a book, which I can't wait to read. But she has talked about a quote that I think her grandmother told her. And the quote was basically something along the lines of, remember that, like, when our time comes, we can't take any of this with us, right? So we came into this world without all these material items, and we are going to leave this world without any of these material items. So don't let material items become your identity. Don't identify with your clothing, with your bags, with your technology, with anything, because all of this could be gone tomorrow, and then what are you going to identify with? What are you going to put your identity in? So just think about that. Think about what matters most in this world and try to focus more on that. I know it's hard. I know in the world today, again, all of this material stuff, I'm grateful for it. We should be grateful for what we have and use these things and appreciate them while we've got them, but just know that they will not be ours forever. Another tip I have is get outdoors. Again, I know some of these tips sound really simple, but getting outside is incredibly important for us. Even if you don't live somewhere super sunny and warm, it is incredibly important. The benefits of vitamin D are amazing. I feel like, you know, I've looked into it and I've known some of these things for a while, but vitamin D can support immune health, it regulates your mood, it can reduce depression. I know that for me, sometimes if I feel like I've been inside too long and then I go out for a walk, I'm like, this is what it's all about. I love being able to go on walks with my husband. It's one of my favorite things, our favorite things to do together actually, is just to go on a walk. And sometimes when we get outside, we also like to kind of do, I don't know what you'd call it, but just to be intentional about it, and gratitude walks. I think I've heard people call them that. We'll sometimes ask each other what we're grateful for. What do you notice about being outside right now? What do you hear? What do you see? What do you smell? All of that really grounds you, really puts you in the present moment, and it's a beautiful thing to do with someone else or to do yourself. So if you're gonna go for a walk, maybe take out the headphones, because that's not always safe either, and maybe think to yourself or say it out loud, or if you're with someone else, have that moment of connection with them and connection with nature. It is such a beautiful thing, and people forget how healing nature is. How, again, we were put on this earth and that we were meant to be outside, enjoying it and taking it all in, getting sunlight on our skin, feeling the grass beneath our feet. I've heard that it's incredibly important for digestion. If you show your stomach to the sun, if you lay down in the grass and have your stomach facing the sun, that's really good for digestion apparently. And putting your feet, your bare feet, on the grass, it's really grounding and really healing. So I just, everything you can do outside, do outside. If you can read outside, read outside. Go for a walk, do everything you can, because I'm telling you, you'll realize how much better you feel when you get outside. I recommend doing it for at least 15 minutes a day. If you don't have much time, again, maybe on your lunch break or whatever it might be, a walk after work, get outside. It's really, really healing, I promise. Next up, I want to talk about journaling. So I'm a huge lover of writing. I have always been a writer from a very young age, and you don't need to be a writer to do this. Journaling is for everyone, and again, it's something that can be very healing and very just good for you and your mind. So it's another great way to slow down, and it helps you to work through all of your emotions, good or bad. It helps you to kind of put the day away. So in the morning, I do gratitude journaling, and there are so many gratitude journals out there. You don't need to use the same one as anyone else. You don't even need a gratitude journal. If you just have a plain notebook or a piece of paper, you can write down what you're grateful for. You can write about your day, write about what you want to do, or at the end of the day, do some journaling, write about what made today great. Write about how you're feeling. Again, things that you experienced, good or bad, it can really help you. Whether you have someone to talk to or not, I feel like this can be really good for us. So yeah, I always start and end my day with gratitude journaling. I want to do more journaling in general, of just writing down my emotions, how I'm feeling that day, because again, it's really good to get it all out. We cannot keep storing our emotions inside of us. Like I was saying, especially negative emotions can be stored in places in your body that can lead to high cortisol and stress and discomfort in your own body, which is not fair, and no one should have the right to ever make you feel uncomfortable in your own body. You should try your best to, you know, make that impossible for people. I know it's hard, but either way, we have the power through journaling to get out our emotions, and I think that's a really beautiful thing. Like I said, you don't need to be a professional writer. You don't need to know what you're doing with writing. Just get it on paper. I promise you it can be really, really helpful and healing. My last couple tips are ones that I've been very passionate about recently. So next I want to say, if you can, and I know this can be really tricky, but if you can, try to eat locally sourced foods, eat whole foods, and eat seasonally. So when I was in the US, I felt like this was much harder, but just because it's harder, it doesn't mean it's impossible, and it depends where you live and what's accessible to you and what your budget is. So, you know, do with this what you will, but it's not impossible. We just have to try a little harder and push ourselves a little more. So I now live in the UK, and one of the reasons that I chose to live in the UK is because I feel like healthy food is a bit more accessible here. It's more affordable and easier to get, basically. Whether you're eating out at a restaurant or going to the grocery store, I have learned that it's much more accessible here. In the US, I'm not going to go into detail, but I don't think that our foods are always the healthiest in the US. I think things are allowed in our foods that are not allowed in other countries, so if that tells you anything, it's not great, but it's not impossible. So I first recommend doing your research into what foods are in season. If you're in the UK, the National Trust website has an entire guide for every single month, which I saw the other day, which I thought was very cool. I'll link that below. But you can find this information pretty much anywhere. A quick Google search will tell you what produce is in season. We are meant to eat seasonally. You know, you see things growing outside at a certain time of year and you're like, okay, well, that makes sense. If it's growing outside right now, that must mean it's seasonal, and that means that it's going to benefit your body so much. And you don't, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean that if you're eating a fruit or vegetable out of season that it's bad for you. They're always good for you. They're fruits and vegetables, but eating seasonally is very, very beneficial for us. I recommend going to farm shops or farmers markets. This may also help because you'll be able to see what's more readily available. Now again, in the US, I feel like farm shops are usually quite expensive, but farmers markets, a lot of small towns do farmers markets, a lot of places do farmers markets, so I would recommend just checking it out. You might be able to get things at a better price. You never know compared to your grocery store. Even if it's a bit more expensive, if you can splurge a little bit more on healthy foods rather than clothing and makeup, for example, it's better for you. Think about that as well with your money. Think about, is what you're buying going to benefit your well-being? It's a good way to look at it, I think. I would also research and try to find local restaurants. If you're someone who enjoys eating out like I do, I feel like if you try to research and find local restaurants that source their foods locally, you know, and use locally grown produce and things, I think that's really amazing and not something that's done a lot these days. Now, I think we can all pretty much come to the conclusion that a lot of chain restaurants are probably not going to do this. So you are going to have to look around a little bit more. But again, it's worth it if it means putting healthy whole foods into your body rather than putting junk into your body. And you might be surprised, some of those places that do source their foods, you know, use local produce and use local farmers, they're not always as expensive as you think. Sometimes you might be surprised. And the last tip I want to give in this video is cycle syncing. So if you are a woman, cycle syncing is very important for us, and it's something that I feel very passionately about. The fact that women, for so many years, through history, women have not been, our bodies have not been studied. Our bodies have not truly been, like, our bodies are very complex. I get that. We're quite different to men. However, women's bodies and women's health has not been studied for very long. And this is something, again, I'm extremely passionate about. So if you're a woman, you're going to want to listen up. Cycle syncing is really important for us, and it's something we were most likely not taught. I know I was not taught this in school. I found this out through like TikTok. So TikTok is really good for a lot of educational things, I have to say. Now do your research, don't just trust what a stranger on the internet says. You know, even me, I don't know everything, but from what I learned, I want to share a little bit with you. So we have 4 phases of our cycle. So we have the menstrual phase, we have the follicular phase, the ovulation phase, and the luteal phase. So you might have heard a lot of women lately talking about, you probably are most familiar, I guess, with the menstrual phase and the ovulation phase if you're a woman. Your menstrual phase is your period. Ovulation is when you are most fertile, and that's when most people try to get pregnant, is when they're ovulating. And the other 2 phases, I feel like they're less known about because nobody ever talks about them. So you have your luteal phase, which is leading up to your period. This is the least fun phase. I feel like that's more of our hibernation phase where we need to truly slow down and take care of ourselves. And the follicular phase is where we have the most energy and we are ready to go. We can take on the day and do everything. So cycle syncing is very important to living a healthier and slower paced life because especially in your luteal and menstrual phase, you are supposed to slow down. So this means eating certain foods, which the food part I can't really tell you about because I'm still learning about that myself, but you are supposed to be eating certain foods that benefit you through each phase of your cycle. So again, certain foods throughout your luteal, menstrual, ovulation, follicular phase, all of that. But with exercise, I've been quite familiar with this because I enjoy exercising. So what I've been doing is during my luteal phase, at the beginning of my luteal phase, I start to slow down my workouts. So I will do slower paced yoga and Pilates classes. Once I'm in the thick of the luteal phase, and especially once I get into my menstrual phase, I am very heavily focused on slow-paced yoga classes that are like 10-15 minutes long. Also walking. People underestimate the power of walking and the benefits of walking. Highly recommend. If it's not safe or you don't feel comfortable or you don't have access to open fields like we do in the UK, maybe get a walking pad or a treadmill if possible, or go to a gym if you can. Walking is free though if you're able to, so it's really amazing to not have to pay for a membership to just walk. So if you can, maybe go with someone if possible, but it's incredibly beneficial and it's a good slow-paced workout. And in your follicular and ovulation phases, that's where your energy rises again. So then you can focus more on fast-paced workouts. Even then, I don't always do that because like I said earlier in this video, slowing down your workouts is incredibly beneficial anyway. But it doesn't mean fast-paced workouts are bad for you. It's just you have to keep in mind where you are in your cycle. I use the Flow app. I know some people are against using period tracking apps. I personally use it and whatever, I'm fine with it. But if not, then at least write down what phase of your cycle you're in when your period starts. That is day 1 of your cycle. So try to keep that in your notes in your phone or write it down in a notebook, whatever you can do to keep track of it. I personally find the Flow app helpful though because there's advice on there, there's a lot of discussion topics and things like that, so I find that helpful. And yeah, cycle syncing is really amazing. So you just want to focus on taking care of your body in the best way possible. And again, I had no idea about this till recently, and I feel like most women haven't been taught these things. And I just hope that going forward, especially for young girls in health classes now, I really hope and pray that they're being taught a lot of these things. They probably aren't, but I really hope they are, and I hope things change because women need to be more familiar with our bodies. We need to get more comfortable talking about women's bodies. It's not a taboo topic, people. We've been on this earth since the beginning of time. We need to get more comfortable talking about women's health and studying women's bodies. It's something I'm so passionate about. But yes, to live a simple, slower paced life, learn more about your cycle and work on cycle syncing because I've noticed the benefits of it myself personally. So I do recommend that you research this yourself or talk to your doctor about it and look into it because it is worth it. And those are all of the tips that I wanted to share with you today. I hope this video is not too long. And just remember that again, slowing down in all that you do is more elegant, it's more graceful, and it's overall beneficial for your mental, physical, and emotional well-being. Slow down. Remember that life is not a race. It's not a competition. I know certain cultures, like in the US where I'm from, hustle culture and constantly working, up the corporate ladder and constantly trying to get better and better and better. it's not a race. I promise you, we are all exactly where we are meant to be. Timing is everything, and life is not a competition. You know, everyone is on their own journey. You can't compare your life to anyone else's. So take a breather. Remember to slow down. Practice mindfulness any chance you get. Be intentional with all that you do. Romanticize your life any way you can. And remember to be present. Go in nature. Heal. Do what you have to do, because I promise you, you're going to notice incredible benefits to your health, and you're going to have a better quality of life. So I think I'll stop rambling now. I really hope I included everything. I really hope when I turn off this camera that I'm not going to be like, oh, I completely forgot this. I could always do a part 2, but to be honest, I think I covered most things in this video. But if you have any tips or advice for me or anyone else who watches this video, please leave a comment below and share some of your tips on how to slow down and live simply. So thank you so much for watching. I plan to do many more sit-down videos. I have a whole list in my phone of ideas. I might be doing slightly less vlogging as well, so if you're not into that, then this is good for you. So yeah, subscribe, like the video, share it with someone who might benefit from hearing these tips. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.